Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first exciting episode of the Attention Bajoran Workers Super Podcast
Yay!
Spectacular.
Hi, everybody.
I'm Josh. This is Wesley, and
Yay.
we're gonna
First
complain
off,
about things.
the inflation, you know? I think I lost Josh. Okay.
That damn. No, I'm still here. So, for our first exciting episode, we are going to discuss everyone's favorite
show
Star
that
Trek series.
reinvented
Star Trek
the franchise, that
Discovery.
reignited the franchise, for better or worse. I don't know. I've seen people like love Star Trek Discovery. I question their taste, but at the same time, it's like everyone's entitled to liking what they like, you know?
Yeah, they love it when Alex Kurtzman's check passes. So the last episode of Discovery was... was it last Thursday?
I just wanna like clarify for our listeners. As of recording for this, I myself, Wesley, hi everybody. I've only seen, in terms of Discovery, I've only watched up until like episode 3 or 5 of season 4. I have a general understanding of what happens in season 5, but that's mostly from like other people's reviews, including Josh's reviews. So yeah, Josh, everything.
Yeah, I have
Oh, God
watched
help.
every episode of this thing from the very beginning. So this is an informed opinion. I'm not one of these people that watched the trailer and shit on it. I watched every episode.
He watched.
Oh shit! I was trying to wait.
Josh watches Star Trek, so you don't have to.
We can bleep these.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, we're not just going to talk about the last episode. I want to talk about the whole thing. Yeah, from the very beginning. The first thing that I want to get out of the way, there is a common criticism that I see of this show that I don't agree with. Okay, I have plenty of criticisms and they're coming, but there's one that just that I don't get. A lot of people say they hate Discovery because it is woke. And Star Trek is like the one show that I would expect to be quote unquote woke, you know? Because, like, I mean, from the very beginning, they put black people on a show in the 60s.
Worse than that, they put a Russian on the bridge, like during the height of the Cold War.
You did. Yeah. But besides the fact that they they pushed Burnham as the first black woman in the history of human history. And they cast a couple gay people. Discovery is not woke. Like, what it doesn't have.
That's
it doesn't
the thing.
have
I think
a
what people misunderstand about Discovery is that these things that they do, like they have in the show that are woke, like a strong black woman as the lead, or gay people, or even a trans person in after season 3. I guess with the minor exception of that one character, Gray, like the ghost Trill, or no, Gray is the human who. Oh no, Adira is the human who took on the Trill symbiote, and Gray is like the former host who, like, yeah. With the exception of that,
Gray
from what I've seen, those elements are just there. I feel like people are assuming that with every episode is like an episode of like, oh, you have to be okay with being gay. You have to, we have to talk about like the struggle of homosexuality as if we were in 2024 and not in the 32nd century. But it's like, no, that I think what people are confusing, misunderstanding is like,
there's none
woke
of that.
elements are part of the setting, not necessarily part of the plot. In fact, they're not part of the plot. The only aspect of it that's part of the plot is that one character, Gray, all or like what's the Trill name? Like the last name, like Dax, like Tall. Okay. Other than that character, when they were like discovering their new body after being like a ghost in a deer's head, at least from what I've seen, none of the quote unquote woke elements are really anything important to the story. Which is quite disappointing.
Yeah. And spoiler, Gray amounted to absolutely nothing. But it's funny, in the first season it kind of tried, because I remember like the Klingons in the first season, supposedly they were supposed to be an analogy to like Trump supporters. But no one noticed that because they changed the Klingon makeup and everybody
about
just
the
hated
Klingons
it.
in terms of like the
And
Trump supporter allegory
about.
is, I don't know. Listen, we're not trying to get into real world politics here, but from what I've seen, like I'm a liberal Democrat. Like I'm not going to be voting for Trump in November. I have no judgment towards anyone who does. But you know, with someone politically like on my side of the thing, it would be kind of expected to think like, oh, they are the enemies purely because they're an allegory for Trump supporters. But when I was watching the Klingons in Discovery, I did kind of pick up on the Trump allegory thing, but at the same time, the context of the story, and especially with, well, criticisms I have of the Federation that we'll get into like in later episodes, I was actually a little bit in support of the Klingons. If anything, like I was in support of like the almost isolationist, but not really isolationist, sort of like nationalist pride that like that one Klingon Takuvma was trying to foster. Like I thought that was actually really well done, to the point where like, I was almost siding with the Klingons against Starfleet, which is interesting for a liberal to say about an allegory for Trump supporters, which is interesting.
But again, not that the Klingons should have amounted to anything, because we spent half the season in the
reason why
universe.
I think the Klingons never really amounted to anything for the whole show is, the makeup.
Yeah,
the
makeup,
backlash
from the makeup. I don't know how you backtracked on that really quick. But anyway. No, I was saying anyway, being woke is not one of the many criticisms
2016 was ever
I am going to level
woke
against Discovery here. No. And what's funny about the Klingon makeup, I personally, I thought that was a good idea, making them look more alien. And I don't think they went far enough. Like, the Klingons were fine. I don't think they went far enough making everyone else look alien. Like, the Tellarites and the Andorians, they looked more updated. But what I think they what I think they should have done, they should have went for it completely. They should have made the Vulcans look more alien too. Because if you think about it, Vulcans look less alien now than they did before. When you look at the TNG era, you don't see a lot of Vulcans there, besides Tuvok, but he doesn't count because they couldn't do this with him. But when you see the occasional Vulcan pop up on like TNG and Deep Space Nine, they have that coppery makeup on because like their blood is copper based, and it makes them look
with that
not just like a dude with ears on, you know. And I think
the
they
only thing
I think they
the
should
only
have
thing
leaned
I'll say
more
to
into
that is
that.
with the backlash with how alien they
whatever,
made the Klingons, I feel like if they tried to do something like that with the Vulcans, I'm not saying that idea is bad. I'm just saying like that particular makeup department, if they tried to do that with the Vulcans, I feel like Discovery season 1 at least would have been hated and criticized even more than it already was, because the Vulcans are a way more like icon of Star Trek than even the Klingons are. And if they try to update the Vulcans in the way that they tried to update the Klingons, oh god, that would cause metaphorical riots in the street. So that's my only thing with that. Like, I think the idea is good. It's just I don't trust that particular makeup department to make it look good. Which is interesting because with the Klingons are the only ones I saw that, like, I think they actually got wrong. Like, the Andorians looked a little rubbery, but with all their other aliens, especially the Losians from when Pike was introduced in season 2, that makeup design is actually one thing where, like, I don't know. I don't necessarily think they should have just stopped there. They could have gone further with the design, but at the same time, those alien designs looked really good and like proper aliens instead of just like old people with giant bags plastered to their scalps. Like,
yeah. It was a good balance between, oh, I recognize this from TOS, and
it was not really possible with the Klingons if you think about it, because, well, for one thing, TOS Klingons were just regular people with questionable
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
We're just people in blackface with Fu Manchu.
The one thing I'll say about the Klingons is the makeup was the only thing I didn't like about them. Everything else, because people have criticized the Klingons' portrayal in season 1 to Discovery even more than the makeup, like with the ship design, with like the costume design, and like speaking in literal Klingon instead of English. All of that stuff I actually loved. I loved everything about that, even down to like the spiky uniforms. If they had done that with TNG style makeup, even like the bald thing, like if they had just like improved a little bit on the TNG style makeup and just left everything else like they did in season 1, I feel like they would come across way better. I feel like the one thing that really brought it all down was the initial makeup, physical makeup.
Yeah, I like them speaking in Klingon.
For one thing, it adds to
you can't read subtitles for 5
adds to what I was saying before of like the Trump allegory of like the nationalist thing, where it's like these aren't just Star Trek aliens; these are an alien race who happen to be in Star Trek.
Yeah.
If anything,
we want to preserve our culture, but we're
Discovery
speaking English.
Is the only one that the only show that actually like properly developed an alien race, if you think about it. Because in shows like even TNG or DS9's a little odd because, you know, there was the Bajorans and even the Dominion, but with like shows in the TNG era, most aliens, especially the Klingons, kind of just looked like they all had one central culture, and it wasn't like a melting pot of different cultures. It's like the Klingons, even in Discovery, there was still the idea of like Kahless and like honor, but it seemed like in Discovery there were like multiple different cultures and societies, even religions that all stemmed from Kahless, but like went on different paths. And in TNG style shows, it's kind of seemed like, oh, every Klingon wears the same kind of uniforms, every Klingon has the same kind of look. There wasn't much variety in that, and the argument could be made like once you got to TNG, there was a centralized military for the whole species. But at that point, it could also be argued in the other way. It's like, even in today's military in the United States, even if there's a central uniform, there's more diversity in what soldiers look like, you know? Like, yeah, so please, for our listeners, please excuse me if you hear a dog in the background.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
dog is playing with my boots. Ugh. A dog
That's gonna be
scout.
our only listener. Yeah. But season 1 starts with the Klingons doing their we don't want to lose our culture shtick. And then we're introduced to Michael Burnham, Dementia Ravenway, the fan fiction self-insert character.
I think the reason that she's the worst part of this show
the absolute worst part of
there's also the Spock stuff, but the main reason she's the worst part of the show is that she's portrayed as being the only part of the show. Like, can I just say with the Spock stuff first, real quick?
Exactly.
I think it was fine to connect her to Spock. I think making her a sibling of Spock was going way too far. If any, I think the best thing to have done was make her like. Do you remember that one episode with like the Medusans of the original series, where like the actor who played Dr. Lasky in TNG, she played a doctor in, or like a student or something in an episode of TOS where she was perfectly human, but she went to Vulcan and studied under Vulcans, and sort of adopted their lifestyle per se. And I think that would have been fine to do with Burnham. And worst case scenario, they could have just made it like Burnham was a love interest for Spock at one point. I think making her legitimately a sibling of Spock, even an adopted sibling, was a little too far.
Yeah, that's where the fan fiction bullshit starts to come in. She's Spock's adopted secret sister that nobody ever knew about.
Hey, there's the argument that like he did not tell anybody about Cybok, and that's like.
Yeah, but the thing about that is, if you're going to use
that's a good point.
William Shatner's fan fiction to justify your own, you've already lost. You're gonna use the worst fucking Star Trek movie
in
to
future
justify
episodes,
your bullshit.
But I'm curious if you've read any of the William Shatner books written for Star Trek.
I know a little bit about them. I know he wrote. I've never read them, but I know it's like the Borg bring back Captain Kirk for some reason. I think because like he dies on the Genesis planet, the whatever planet from Generations with the Nexus.
Yeah,
like the Borg
I haven't read them myself
for some reason.
But
I don't know what happens. I know that
apparently they are on the shelves in my local library, so I can read them whenever I want. Just have to find my library card. Anyway.
Oh, cool. But Burnham is she's the first officer of the Shenzhou, and they meet the Klingons, and these
Klingons
like,
be Klingon.
Klingons are doing Klingon shit, and Burnham calls her dad. Yeah, and Burnham calls her dad and says, "Dad, how do we deal with the Klingons?" and Sarek says, "Just shoot them." That's exactly what he says. He says, "Just fucking shoot them. That's what we do." And so she tells her captain, "Okay, my dad says we should shoot them." And the captain's like, "No, that's stupid. Don't do that." and then Burnham physically assaults her captain, knocks her out, and then goes to tell the crew, "Yeah, we're gonna shoot him," and then they shoot them, and then they start a fucking war, and she gets her captain killed. So we're already off to a great start with this character that we are going to be focusing on 100% in the entire fucking series. Oh, God. And then she goes to prison because points for Star Trek being inclusive and
I didn't even think about that.
racial stereotypes is that your black main character is an ex-con.
Kind of paints the picture that Star Trek Discovery is indeed not woke.
Oh my God. See, that's what I'm talking about. Oh my God. And then she's on
Draco
she gets
Malfoy's
recruited
father,
by Captain what the
Lorca,
fuck was his name?
Gabriel.
Yeah,
Gabriel Lorca.
yeah. The Sorting Hat puts her in Slytherin. Yeah, Lorca. Yeah, the Sorting Hat puts her in Slytherin, and she's recruited aboard the Discovery, which has Section 31 people crawling all over.
Federation
and
just
everybody
forgot
knows what
about
Section 31 is, which
in
again is
100 or so
fucking
years.
dumb.
Which, okay, that's not unreasonable if you think about it. For them to just forget about Section 31, if anything, like removing themselves from the zeitgeist of like the Federation makes sense for that organization. It's just the way they do it should be explained properly. Like that's the one thing I am looking forward to seeing in like that section word movie. It's like how they remove themselves.
Well,
yeah,
that's never coming out. Well, okay, on the one hand that makes sense, but on the other hand it doesn't, because you have species who live a hell of a lot longer than humans do. Like there would be people who were still alive back then,
but
and
that's
would be like,
what
"Oh,
I'm
I
saying.
remember those
It would
guys
be interesting
with the black
to
badges
see
walking
how,
around."
if it does come out, how Section 31 in that movie, or Long Trek as it's being called, deals with people like that. They're probably not going to deal with it, but it's like that would be interesting to see potentially.
But then she's recruited to the Discovery by Lorca, who turns out to be a secret heel from the Mirror Universe, who's obsessed with her because everyone has to be obsessed with her. And we're trying to get the spore drive working so we can fight the Klingons. And then we spend half the season in the Mirror Universe. And it has nothing to do with the Klingons.
I don't know about you. The actual Klingon arc, both with like the tardigrade thing and like the spore drive and everything, I don't know. I actually kind of liked it. I thought like that was a good start for something that could be explored further. But instead of exploring further, they decide, oh no, we're gonna go right into fan service and create a whole like second part of the season in the Mirror Universe. So it's like you had an interesting thing going, and then you just decided, no, we're just gonna, as you said before, we're just gonna be fan fiction writers right now.
Yeah, this is a common theme with Discovery.
That's
There's good
I thought
ideas
about with
sprinkled
Discovery,
in
but also
here.
Picard.
They just don't know what to do with them.
Both every time they do a season-long arc,
Picard
it's like
a
three-dimensional puzzle that when you look at on the box it comes in, it actually makes a really beautiful picture. It's just the writers of Discovery can't put the pieces for that three-dimensional puzzle in the right combination, and it kind of comes out looking ugly. Like the bones, like everything that makes up Discovery's stories, even until season 5, is not. They make great elements, but like the combination of everything just doesn't work. At least in season 1.
Yeah, the first season, like, there were two different stories here, and if they had been separated, it might have worked better, but we completely derail one story to do another, and then we come back to the one story, and like there's just too much shit going on. But we go to the mirror universe, and we fuck around in the mirror universe, and the dead captain from the Shenzhou is the
I know
Empress
people love
of the
her.
mirror universe.
I know people love Emperor Giorgio, but for me, that was easily the most cringe-worthy character in the entire show, even worse than Burnham. I'm not super familiar with Michelle Yeoh's work. I loved her in Everything Everywhere All at Once, but outside of that and a Discovery, I haven't really seen her in much of anything else. But it's like, I don't know. She just could not pull off sexy, evil, comic relief characters. Like, the moment she left the Mirror Universe, I didn't even like her when she was in the Mirror Universe. I did not even like her when she was in the Mirror Universe, but she left the Mirror Universe and started being in our universe. I instantly hated her. Again, I know people love her, like that portrayal, but like out of the two versions, I almost wish they had done some sort of stupid techno-babble reason of bringing back Prime Giorgio. Like, she was easily way more entertaining than Mirror Universe Giorgio. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, she would have been the better captain. But I know I'm in the minority on this.
I'm kind of in the minority.
I'm kind of in the
minority with you.
General. It was.
I will say this. I do understand. Go ahead. Oh, okay. I do understand the argument that like it kind of lets the cast sort of let loose and like break from what they've established as norms for their characters. Like that's an interesting thing to look at. Like they get to play evil versions of themselves. So in my head, I justify the mirror universe in the way that like it lets the cast sort of have fun with their characters more than usual. But in terms of the actual story, there's not really much there in terms of the mirror universe, and I think that's a big problem. Like, especially for you, it's like there's not really much there. Even
it was a gimmick episode of TOS that was just there so they didn't have to build new sets. And that was it. There were a lot of gimmick episodes like that, and we never got obsessed with those. We never went back to Sigma Iota or the
20th century Roman planet would be actually pretty interesting to revisit, especially considering in TNG, with the way the rest of the galaxy progressed, that planet easily could be themselves in the era of like Enterprise, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, see, that has more potential than the mirror universe. But not to mention the fact that none of it makes any sense. That in this alternate universe where everyone is a mustache-twirling villain, everyone who ever had sex and conceived a child in our universe also did in the mirror universe. And that's why everyone you know exists there. It's just... But anyway, the mirror universe is stupid, and I hate it, and I wish we would stop revisiting it. But it happened, so we spent a bunch of time in the mirror universe, and Burnham cried because she had to shoot someone or something, and because everyone was mean. And then they escaped somehow. I don't even remember. Like, I refuse to watch this show again. So I'm a little fuzzy on some of the details. I don't remember
sort of like the reverse of how they got there.
But they got out
and had to like hack into the mirror version of Stamets, his something, or like I don't remember exactly myself. So. With that, Lorca was trying to get home. That's the reason they were there. Is Lorca was trying to get back to his universe, but also used.
Oh yeah, that's right, because he wanted to.
And I think he wanted to sort of like how Archer was in Enterprise's mirror universe, where like he wanted to use tech from the Prime universe to overthrow the Empire, and
yeah,
that's what he
right,
told his followers. In reality, all it was is he just wanted to sleep with Prime Burnham like he was with Mirror Burnham. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I now it makes sense. I remember now. But yeah, they finally escape, and then she brings the Emperor with her because she felt bad for killing the Prime Giorgio, which you should feel bad because that was entirely your fault. Um, and then what happened? How did season 1 end? I don't even remember.
Season 1 of
I know there was a fight, and I know Lorca gets killed.
What's your thought?
Oh, and there, and we can't forget Ash Tyler, the disguised Klingon, who falls in love with Burnham.
Ash Tyler,
and
I gotta be honest with you.
First off,
I agree with the sentiment that there was no reason to explain why the Klingons have smooth foreheads in TOS. There was no reason to like actually create like a story about it. That I'm thinking of like the episodes in Enterprise, like that one joke that Worf said in that one episode of DS9. That's plenty, but. Even though
don't talk about
I will admit the explanation they gave in Enterprise was interesting, the idea of like Klingons during the war with the Federation and Discovery, like multiple Klingons being altered to look like humans and think they are humans, I think that would have made a much better explanation for why they were TOS Klingon, like smooth-headed Klingons in TOS. For one thing, what you could do is like once the war is over, all of those secret spy Klingons who actually look like humans, they have to like come back to the Empire, and they're used as like the cannon fodder, or like they're the soldiers you see because Klingon Empire is disgusted by Klingons who don't look like Klingons, and so they're trying to kill them off. And that could be even like an interesting like commentary on race, and like that's like a thing that Discovery could have easily done as like a future storyline, and that would have been a much more interesting. That would have been a much more interesting, quote unquote, woke storyline that I think even people who hate woke would have found interesting to watch. But you know, Discovery decided to be fan fiction writers instead. Yeah,
that's a good idea. Alex Kurtzman.
I feel like you've been asking him to fix Star. Asking him to fix Star. I'll let you fix Star Trek for him for years.
Since the first season of Discovery, yeah, I have. But yeah, Tyler is a surgically altered Klingon. They make him look human. They give him false memories and shit, and he falls in love with Burnham, and they find out he's a Klingon, and he doesn't believe he's a Klingon because they do a good job with their memory altering stuff, and then the chick who did the surgery to him sexually assaults him, and we get to see her
Remind
nipples.
me, did she have 4 nipples or 3 nipples? Interesting, because I feel like that could have been a funny like
Easter egg for like 2.
The opposite, like the other gender version of like having 2 dicks. So it's like, oh, you have 4 nipples because you know Klingons have double biology or anatomy. But anyway, that's splitting hairs.
Yeah.
The one last thing I want to say about season 1 is the way the Klingon War ends, and how the lady who assaults Ash, Laurel, I think her name is, the way she takes control of the Empire, which is basically Discovery and just the Federation in general, based on
I totally forgot
Emperor
about
Georgiou's recommendation, plant a bomb in the core of Kronos And
right. See, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, and then she gets the detonator, and she's like, I'm the captain now,"
I
or "I
think
blew
that's
up the
so
planet."
stupid for the
And
Klingons
yeah, okay, I
because
totally forgot about all that.
I think they would call her bluff immediately. I don't think they would. First off, I don't think Laurel as a Klingon would even consider that bet. I don't think, because that just seems so dishonorable to like hold your entire like planet hostage just so you could rule over everybody. And to be fair, it was not about ruling over, it was more about ending the war, more about that than being the leader.
Yeah. Well, to be fair to her, didn't she come from like some family that was
That's a
more
good
like
point, I
assassins and
suppose.
shit and weren't like didn't like care about honor? 'Cause
Yeah,
her
they would have
house was
preferred
like
blowing up
different.
Kronos than
Now the rest of
being
the Klingons, yeah, they
blackmailed
would
into
have said, "Do
doing
it,
anything
bitch."
for
But
anybody. I forgot about that. He
yeah.
was an
But yeah, I
Orion.
totally forgot about that. Oh, and Clint Howard was there too.
I love Clint Howard.
He was an Orion drug addict, yeah. Clint Howard was there, and then
Indeed.
we saw a Klingon pissing, and that's how we confirmed they have two dicks. Yeah, and then they planted the bomb, and Laurel got
I'm the
the
Emperor now, like the
detonator, and
Captain
she said,
Phillips
"I'm
thing.
in charge now," and then the war was over.
Do you like?
Yeah,
Oh, go
and
ahead.
that was
Sorry.
season 1. It was not good. It had
Do you like
No,
season
go ahead. I was
2
just gonna say
better
it
than
had good
season
elements, but
1?
ultimately it sucked.
Okay.
I don't know.
That that's
I
a
will say
that's a good point.
yes,
Yeah.
because if it wasn't for season 2, we wouldn't have Strange New Worlds.
Yeah,
Because Strange New
that's a
Worlds
fair assessment.
is
That's a fair
the
way
only
of putting
good
it.
thing that came out of
I do
Discovery.
like I do like how Strange New Worlds says like, okay, you can
But yeah.
enjoy how good we are, but you have to acknowledge that season 2 of Discovery happened. Like a lot of even just right down to Pike's character, even in future seasons of Strange New Worlds,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, if you want an explanation for how I know I'm gonna die, watch season 2 of Discovery. Like, as much as I actually hate season 2, but as much as I hate it, I do applaud them for saying
Yeah.
like, you enjoy how good we are, gotta watch this show first.
Yeah. And I guess we'll get to that point in season 2, but that just shows how good Strange New Worlds is, that they took that element from Discovery that was kind of dumb and they made it work for Pike so well. It's like through this whole thing, he
To be
knows
fair, it's
exactly
not
how
that he's
he's
gonna
gonna
die, it's
he
more
knows
so
exactly what's
that he's
gonna
gonna be
happen to
heavily
him.
disabled.
And yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's just it works so well in Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
Why can't they just let the people who write Strange New Worlds write everything?
Oh
Give
god,
the writers from
if the
Strange
people
New
who wrote
Worlds and
Lower
Lower
Decks
Decks
were in
just
charge
let
of
them
all
do
of Star
everything.
Trek, we
They know
would
what
be
they're
in a
doing.
golden age of Star Trek.
Yeah, because those people actually like Star Trek, and you can tell. And I'm convinced the people that wrote Discovery
I
hate
don't think
Star
it's
Trek, and they hate Star Trek fans, and they want you to die. They would come to your they would come to your house, those writers, if they could, they would come to your house and they would piss on your fucking floor and they would say, "Fuck you, you fucking nerd."
I
That's what they would
think
do
it's
if they
more
had the
so they
chance
hate you
because they hate
specifically,
Star
Josh. I
Trek
don't know
that
if they hate
much.
Star Trek in general. I think they hate you specifically. I think
Oh yeah, I know they hate me.
I
I know
think
they
what it
targeted
is
this whole
that
thing at
they go
me
well,
just to piss me
realistically, I think
off.
what it is they tried to go the Battlestar Galactica route where
Because
they tried to make a more gritty, like dark version of Star Trek that like how Battlestar Galactica
yeah.
succeeded. It's just writers of Discovery and in some ways Picard just didn't know how to do that. They just didn't know how to pull that off.
Yeah, I feel like the people who are writing modern darker Star Trek took
and
all of
Battlestar
the
Galactica.
wrong messages from Deep Space Nine. Yeah. Well, the reason
Exactly, a whole
Galactica worked and
ensemble.
Discovery didn't
That's
is because Galactica didn't focus on one character. The thing... We'll get to season 2 eventually. The thing that makes Star Trek work is the relationships between the characters. You have the Kirk and Spock dynamic, you have the Spock and McCoy dynamic. You even have brief Sulu and Chekhov dynamics in TOS. That's what makes it interesting. In TNG, you have Geordi and Data. You have Riker and Troy. You have Picard and Crusher. You have all of these people in Deep Space Nine. You have literally everyone with everyone else. That's what makes you want to watch it. That's what makes you connect with it is the characters and their relationships with each other. And you don't have that in Discovery because the one character you decided to flesh out is a self-insert fan fiction character, and
anyway,
we don't like her and don't care what happens to her. But yeah, season 2. Discovery's captain is dead and they need a new one, and it just so happens Spock went crazy and murdered someone. So his captain, Christopher Pike, temporarily takes over Discovery while the Enterprise is getting fixed from getting fucked up by something, and they go looking for Spock because he's on the run.
On why Enterprise was out of commission.
Did they ever explain why? I don't remember. Was it because of the Red Angel, or was it something unrelated? I don't
Enterprise.
remember.
But if they had paid more attention, or even shown more, like Enterprise is like kind of like screwed up right now, that would have made Pike needing to take Discovery a lot more. It would have made more sense.
Yeah, again, I'm a little hazy on those details because, again, I refuse to watch the show again. But yeah, Spock's on the run because he went crazy and murdered somebody, and they're looking for him. So Pike takes over, and that's when they start finding these signals from what turns out to be the Red Angel, and that's why Spock went crazy, because he tried to mind meld with the Red Angel. Which this doesn't make sense. I think
also what it is that the Red Angel
make sense in retrospect.
Spock remembered from his childhood.
No, go ahead.
Too. I think that might have added an element to why he went crazy.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Because there's a lot of time travel shenanigans with the Red Angel. So they find Spock. They find Spock, and yeah, he's like fucked up from a mind meld, and he eventually gets better. And they're looking for all these signals from the Red Angel because it turns out that there's an evil AI from the future that's gonna destroy everything, and it was going back in time to... It was trying to go back in time to help itself be born? Is that what was going on? Or we were just trying to stop it? But the AI came from the supercomputer that Section 31 had, or that like Starfleet had, that would predict stuff that was happening in the galaxy, and offer tactical solutions and shit. That,
one thing I do want to get one thing out of the way.
The bigwigs in Starfleet.
I do want to get one thing out of the way,
which
with Control, what that AI is called. It's called Control. With the way they were building it up, one thing I actually do
Control. That's what it was called. Yeah.
The writers of season 2 for doing is not going the easy route of saying, this is how the Borg got started. I actually really applaud them for not taking that low-hanging fruit and say, actually, no, this is how the Borg happened. It's like, you could have easily... Okay.
You know, I have a theory about that. Yeah. I have a theory about that. I think that's what they wanted to do, but they were making Picard at the time, and Picard already called the Borg,
Okay.
but
Well,
they wouldn't
either
let them
way,
do it, and they were like,
the
"Ah, shit! Now
Control
we have to come up with
is not
something
the same
else."
thing as the Borg, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I think. But yeah, I think just Picard called dibs on the Borg
Picard calling
first,
dibs
and
on the
then they
Borg is
were,
its whole
and then
episode
they
of
had to
this
come up with
podcast in
something
itself.
else. Yeah, because Picard wouldn't let go of the fucking Borg. But anyway, Control goes crazy.
Leland or something, right?
And possesses the one Section 31 guy. And yeah, Leland. He gets possessed by Control, so he's like, he basically becomes the what's it called? Not the T-1000, but the other Terminator from one of the newer movies. It's all like nanotech and shit. Yeah, he becomes a Terminator. One thing I remember about this that pissed me off so much. When they went to that like secret base where Control was, and there were these Starfleet admirals, and there was a Vulcan admiral, I don't remember her name, but they said that this Vulcan admiral was one of the logic extremists, which is basically like the Vulcan version of like the Taliban. How the fuck do you become an admiral if you are... How do you become an admiral in Starfleet if you're a member of like what is essentially a terrorist organization? Like that would be like fucking... That would be like Osama bin Laden becoming a senator. Like, what the fuck? Oh yeah, she hates everyone who isn't a Vulcan. Let's make her an admiral. And that's another thing. I have to go on a slight side tangent. This is another thing that was just that started out as a joke, as a funny thing, and became way more than it should have been. Because all of this Vulcans are assholes shit
Then they
started
kind of
from
made
that
it
episode of Deep Space Nine, the baseball episode. That's where this all started. It was a funny joke. Haha, this guy is so racist. He hates humans so much he learned how to play baseball just so he could beat Cisco. Like, that was a joke, and then Enterprise took it and made the Vulcans kind of assholes with not letting humanity get past, I feel like there's Warp 5 to explore more.
Now that you mention that, if you think about it with like the Klingon thing, there's a weird pattern of Discovery expanding upon storylines in Enterprise, and those storylines in Enterprise starting with jokes from Deep Space Nine. If you think about, because that we now have two examples of that, where like a joke in DS9 turns into a literal storyline in Enterprise that is continued into Discovery. Yeah.
Yeah, see, they took all the wrong messages from Deep Space Nine. But yeah, it was a funny thing in Deep Space Nine. It was like,
I would love to see
it would be
that.
like if the Klan learned how to play basketball just so they could beat the Harlem Globetrotters. It's but yeah, they find Control, and it's trying to see again. I don't remember. I don't remember if like Control went back in time and tried to...
I think what it is,
make itself be born,
I think
or
what
if
it
was
is
just being born.
There was an episode early on in season 2
but
where Discovery was like got caught in the gravity weld of a giant like sphere that had like the sphere was like roaming the entire universe, just gathering information for like billions of years, and the sphere was dying, and it transferred all of its knowledge to Discovery. And I think what you're thinking of like Control going back in time, I don't think Control was planning to go back in time. I think Discovery just happened to see a future where Control took over everything, and they realized they put two and two together. They realized, oh, if Control gains the knowledge about artificial intelligence given to us by the sphere, then they'll become way more dangerous and create the future we saw in that little blurb.
You're right, yeah. Yeah. You're right. That's right, because Control wanted
like
the
sentient
sphere
or something,
data
but
to
it's
make
like
itself like go Super
is it
Saiyan, whatever the fuck.
Yeah, that's
it. Which is weird because it was already sentient. But yeah, you're right. And then and the sphere data is what made
that was
Discovery
interesting. I will
become
say
a sentient creature in the later seasons. But
I think if Discovery had a sixth season, that's what they would have done it as, like the main story is like really showing off like what Discovery's new artificial intelligence was because of the sphere data. I think that was the plan for season 6 if it had happened. So,
yeah, but yeah, so so Control is after the sphere data, and the sphere data is in Discovery, and so Control and its fleet of Section 31 ships, because Section 31 has its own fleet, are going after Discovery, and we're tracking down these signals from the Red Angel, which, shock of all shocker, turns out to be fucking Burnham's mother, her real mother, who happened to be a fucking scientist developing time travel. And because her mother made it and the suit is keyed to like genetics or some shit, Burnham is the only one that can use it, because of course she fucking has to. Because we call it the Red Angel, and we have to make Michael Burnham a literal angel.
Another wrestling thing?
Which, by the way, there's only one Red Angel, and his name is Angron.
Sorry.
No, Warhammer 40K. That's right, you don't. No. He's he's the Primarch of the World Eaters. They're
as in
they
Angel.
really like killing people, and they really like blood. Yeah, funny story. I'm gonna go on another tangent because I hate Discovery. Angron. So
I only know
I don't know how much
40K
you don't know
to the extent
40K,
of what you talk about.
You're not a 40K guy, right?
Yeah.
You only know what I talk about. Yeah. Yeah. So so there were all the Space Marine legions had like a leader, a Primarch that their DNA was based on. And all of the Primarchs had like specific talents and purposes.
Okay.
Angron's original purpose was supposed to be empathy. He was supposed to be he was supposed to be the understanding and empathetic one, but he landed on a planet that was actually that was kind of like Rome. They had like gladiators and shit. And what they would do to gladiators is they would implant these things in their heads called the butcher's nails.
Interesting.
That would slowly just turn them into like violent killers. So the implants in Angron's head like completely negated his whole empathy thing and just made him this crazed butcher. And it was slowly killing him too. It's just interesting that he turned out to be the complete opposite of what he was supposed to be. Angron's a very interesting character. People think he's just a one-dimensional, slaughter guy, which he turned into when Lorgar and the Word Bearers did that ritual to turn him into a demon prince. But before that, he was a very interesting and nuanced character. Anyway, back to Discovery. Where were we? Yeah, so the sphere data, so yeah, they get all their ships, and I remember this one ended with this giant ship battle, and there were like a million little tiny fighters, and it's like Alex, I know Alex Kurtzman must have fucking shit his pants in delight seeing all these lasers and shit firing everywhere. Because that's what Star Trek is to him, pew pew. And then to get the sphere, to keep the sphere data away from control, they decide they have to shoot it into the future. And they try to shoot the data into the future, but the data won't leave Discovery's computers. They can't get it out.
First, they actually try to destroy Discovery, but Discovery won't let anything happen to destroy itself.
Yeah, the data won't let it. That's right, yeah. And then they decide, well, we'll shoot it in the future. And there's a touching moment between Burnham and Spock where she says something about you're gonna meet a friend and you have to obey. Basically, she's foreshadowing the friendship between Kirk and Spock. She's like, you're gonna meet a friend and you're gonna have to open up to them or whatever the fuck. It's stupid. And then Discovery gets sucked into the future. Pike obviously stays behind. Spock obviously stays behind. Everyone else gets sucked into the future, and then they all have this big meeting with Starfleet, and they decide Discovery is classified, and no one's allowed to talk about it or any of the crew members anymore. And this is where fucking plot hole in Star Trek history comes in. And I'm going to tell you what it is. And it's funny because I forgot to mention it. Harry Mudd was in season 1. There was an episode where Harry Mudd gets aboard the Discovery, and he's got like this time looping device. So he spends like, I don't know, weeks or months or whatever on Discovery fucking around, killing Lorca over and over again because he has this thing against Lorca. But basically, Harry Mudd was on Discovery for a long time, and he knows everything about it. Now, I can believe that Starfleet officers, if they were ordered, hey, you can't talk about this anymore, they wouldn't talk about it. Okay, that's fine. I can even believe that some of the Klingons who knew about it wouldn't talk about it. It's like an honor thing, whatever. I refuse to believe that Harry Mudd would never mention Discovery or its spore drive or anything. So that first episode of TOS, when they arrest Harry Mudd, the first thing he should have said was, "Hey, Spock, I remember you. How's your sister doing?
And they were in the universe.
Remember that ship she was on that had that engine that could teleport anywhere in the galaxy? Boy, that was cool, huh? Wouldn't it suck if somebody told, like, the Klingons or the Romulans or the Tholians or anybody about that? Boy, they'd sure be mad, huh?" And then Spock would say, "Jim..."
Either that or...
Yeah, and then Spock would say, "Jim, I see no further reason to detain this man. Mr. Mudd, you're free to go."
An instance where I need to kill
and that would have been the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But either way, Harry Mudd would have been there and gone in 5 minutes. Because I refuse to believe he would do that. And did someone contact him and say, "Hey, Harry, whatever you do, don't talk about Discovery"?
Explained to Harry Mudd, if you do talk about Discovery, we are in our rights to kill you because there's like a death sentence if you do mention Discovery. If anyone mentions Discovery. That's the only thing I would think of as a possible explanation. But it's also just the only thing is like
I don't know. I
the
think
only
he
thing
just
I'll
would have won.
say is like
It's
why?
dumb.
Why does Discovery have to be this big secret because of what happened with Control? If anything, that's a perfectly good reason. Josh, are you still there? Okay. That's a perfectly
use that as an example. Yeah.
Well, no, that
that
would be a
perfectly
good way
example.
of
Hey,
explaining why.
Hey, don't use AI. This is why.
Oh, nobody in DS9 has heard of Section 31 because Section 31 has been classified so much to prevent something like Control happening again. That would have been perfectly reasonable explanation for why we can't mention Section 31 ever again in public. But it's like, what does Discovery have to do with any of that? What is Discovery? I can understand Discovery being certain elements of Discovery being classified in terms of what actually happened to Discovery, but from the way they're talking about it, it sounds like people are never allowed to mention that the crew of Discovery existed or the ship existed at all. It's like, okay, but what does that have to do with anything? That's the writers trying to explain why Discovery's not mentioned or the Spore Drive or anything is mentioned in TNG era shows. But it's like, even the Spore Drive, that has nothing to do with Control. Like, the classification of the Spore Drive, that's the writers of Discovery trying to, like, scramble to, like, fit their show into canon. And they did a horrible job of writing themselves out of the massive hole they dug It doesn't make any sense. Why is classifying Control and everything that happened in Section 31? Why does that mean you have to completely delete Discovery from Starfleet records? It doesn't make any sense. Seriously, though.
That should have been the tagline. Star Trek Discovery. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and then we're shot into the future. And then season 3, we are shot. I
think it's the 32nd. I think it's like 900 years into the future.
Right? Okay, so yeah, okay. 900 years into the future, the Federation has fallen apart. There's like 5 planets left that are members. Discovery is stranded. Burnham is separated from Discovery, and then their goal is to find Discovery's goal is to find Burnham. Burnham's goal is to find Discovery. Their goal is to make contact with the Federation again. And it turns out that somewhere along the way, most of the dilithium in the galaxy just exploded one day. And that's why everything went to hell, and the mystery of season 3 is what happened to all the dilithium. And the answer will disappoint you.
I have thoughts on the answer, but I want to hear your thoughts first.
So what? Well, we'll get there. Actually, what else actually happened in season 3? Like, okay, so Burnham became like a courier, and she met Booker. She met Cleveland Booker, who was a courier, and who is actually a really cool character. I like him. And then they finally meet Discovery again. They find each other, and they go looking for the Federation. And
no, it was this season.
The Emerald Chain.
The Emerald Chain is season 3,
or was that the next season? Does the Emerald Chain come in? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because the Emerald Chain is like the other big power. It's the Orions and all the planets that they've taken over. But they eventually find the Federation. They find like this outpost with this guy who just lives there and is just waiting for somebody to show up. They meet him. He directs them to Federation headquarters, and they get there. And Federation headquarters is pretty cool. I like all the 32nd century stuff. It looks really cool. What was the Emerald Chain's deal? What were they actually trying to accomplish? Like, I remember the conflict with Osira and...
If I were to guess, I would just say simply
what was that over? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't remember why that I don't remember why they were there. But I remember we had the big fight scene with Osira, and that's when we saw the giant cavernous turbo lift shafts in Discovery, where the turbo lifts just like float around in this massive thing.
Apparently, USS Discovery is actually a TARDIS from Doctor Who. It's bigger on the inside.
Yeah, because there's an infinite amount of space on the inside for all these turbo lifts to fly around. Even though I'm pretty sure that's not how turbo lifts work. They're just like elevators, but they have horizontal shafts that they can go to too. But they find this planet, this place where like all this weird shit is happening, and long story short, there's this Kelpian guy living on this planet. This Kelpian guy like Saru, and he was a kid when he got there because like I don't know, his parents were trying to protect him or something. Anyway, the kid's psychic, and he got scared, and basically all the dilithium in the galaxy exploded because this psychic kid had a shit fit.
The Kelpian ship landed on, I think, was the majority of it was pure dilithium, and somehow, some way, through some subspace shenanigans, as the kid like was developed in his mother's womb and like born, his DNA somehow got like fused with dilithium in general, and so he had a weird sort of, at least as a child, had a sort of a resonance with dilithium where his emotions could affect dilithium. And I think that's what they were explaining. Like, he had such an emotional outburst that not only did it disrupt the dilithium on that planet, it disrupted dilithium like through subspace throughout the whole galaxy, and caused. And I think with the nature of warp engines,
is that what happened?
Whatever was going on in the dilithium, the way it was set up in the engines caused a chain reaction, which led to an explosion, which destroyed. I think what it is like his emotional reaction caused the dilithium in all the engines to become inert, and that it should not have become inert. It cannot become inert, and them being inert caused the explosions that destroyed all the ships. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
That's the problem with Discovery as a whole, is they sort of just pass by necessary technobabble explanations that made the plot they were trying to convey make a lot more sense.
Yeah. But long story short, they got the kid off the planet, and and now that he's gone, he's not a danger to blowing up any more dilithium. So we can use dilithium safely again. Just have to find
Go ahead.
more. Oh, and there was the thing. There was also the thing where like they were trying to. They went to Vulcan for some reason. Right, they went to Vulcan. Yeah, it's Navarre now because the Romulans have come back and they're one people again, which is cool. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. That's cool. That's a good idea. That makes Spock's mission in TNG, successful.
The only thing I don't like about that is the way they
wasn't it one of the Vulcan
episode. I don't know. For me, it kind of gave out vibes that they were trying to say, "Oh, this was also something that Burnham was responsible for." It was like it kind of showed off like it looked like, oh, Burnham was proud of her little brother uniting two different species together after so long. It was like, no, this has nothing to do with Burnham. It's Spock's thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course it was, because now everything Spock ever did, we can claim was actually Burnham, because she said, "Good job, little brother," and But no, I think it was there were Vulcan scientists that were working on some experiment, and they thought they were responsible for the dilithium blowing up.
Yeah,
and Discovery had to go there to like. I think they wanted their research for something, and then they had to convince them like, "Hey, it wasn't your fault. You can come back to the Federation," and they do surprisingly quickly because they're already back in members in the next season. But and then Burnham's mother is also got shot to the future, and she's now one of those fucking Romulan nuns from Picard. Those Romulan katana nuns. I mean, I'm fine with the nuns in general. Whatever I forget what they were called.
I'm looking it up now.
The ones from Picard that what's his face? Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that. No, they're cool. I just think it's dumb
butchering the pronunciation, but
mother had to be
from what it looks like from the spelling, Quiwat Milat, or Quowat Malat. Yeah.
Quowat Malat, that was it. Yeah. Yeah, and she's Burnham's mother is a member, and they let Burnham come and talk to Vulcan because he went to the Vulcan Science Academy, 1,000 years ago. So yeah, they do all that. And then they fight Osira and the Emerald Chain for reasons I don't remember. And then they find the planet with the psychic kid, and they take him off the planet, and oh yeah, this right, this is where we're introduced to Adira and Gray, because they find Earth first, and then they learn that Earth isn't a member of the Federation anymore, and they're like, "What?" And then so they leave Earth and go try to find the Federation, and they meet Adira on Earth. I hated Adira until season 5. It's like they didn't really have much of a purpose. And in the beginning, they could have had a purpose, because their purpose could have been like the exposition character to tell you the difference, like what's happened in 900 years. Like they're looking around. Oh, you still have
programmable matter
replicators. We have quantum. Yeah. We use this now. But they didn't really do a lot of that. And then we meet Gray, who was even more useless, who was Adira's partner, who was
I think it was like an explosion or something where like
I don't even
Gray
remember
was dying.
How did Gray die?
To transfer the tall symbiote I just want to.
Yeah, and they
The
put the
problem
symbiote
with
in Adira, and then they
Gray
had to go
and
find
Adira both is what the thing is, it wasn't really capitalized on as I think a lot of people think it was, but like we were saying before, I think Gray and Adira were sort of an example of why people don't like woke characters in stories, even outside of science fiction. Was like, oh, you have a non-binary character, or you have a trans character, and that's pretty much it. They're just there because you need a non-binary character or a trans character. Like, that's the only thing where like I can understand people's arguments that Star Trek is overly woke. It's like you're saying, like Adira, they don't really seem like they're doing much in the story for like the plot of the season. They have their own thing with like discovering what it means to be a Trill symbiote, even though you're or Trill host, even though you're human, and that they had their own thing. But in terms of the actual plot, there wasn't much to contribute, and I can see arguments that are like, oh, they just put a non-binary person because they needed a non-binary person to be inclusive.
Yeah, I mean, they could have been blonde-haired, blue-eyed, cisgendered
That's
John
what
and Sally Smith.
I'm not saying
they're the
they
same characters.
were
They were still
token
used
characters.
as
I'm just saying
it, like,
based purely on the fact that Adira was non-binary and Gray was technically trans. Based on those facts, people might make the argument that, oh, Discovery Season 3 is overly woke. Because of the combination that they were non-binary and trans, but also they were kind of useless to the main plot of the story.
Yeah. Adira actually becomes a much better character in Season 5. And I actually like them a lot better, and I wish that that had been explored more because it was kind of cool, but, we'll get there. Yeah, and those two were introduced, and then all the other shit happens, and, that's kind of it. We save the dilithium, we beat up the Orions, and the Federation is saved, and the Vulcans join again, and a bunch of other people join again.
Can I just say one thing about like
season
the
4,
reveal of like the Kelpian kid at season 3? I know I'm like I feel like I keep saying this. I know I'm in like the minority here, but I actually not only like that reveal, I actually kind of love it. And this might just be my personal preferences, but that reveal is an example of something that reasonably should be just like a small, nothing, like inconsequential event, sort of like spiraling out and like snowball effect into something really catastrophic. And again, this just might be my personal preferences, but I love stories like that where it's like, oh, there's really not much to this, but oh, it ends up having like horrible consequences for the whole world. And again, that just might be my personal preference, but I actually really love stories like that. So I might be the only Star Trek fan in existence who actually really loved that reveal. It could have, the explanation for why it happened could have been done a lot better, but I do like the idea that, like, oh, it wasn't the Dominion in a counterattack, or it wasn't the Q, or it wasn't the Borg. It was just this one kid who was grieving his mother. And again, totally get if everyone else in the world disagrees with me on that, but I think it was a cool cool idea instead of just going in the direction of like another major power did it. Because for one thing, it subverts expectations, and for better or worse, New Trek seems to like subverting expectations.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think, and you're not wrong, but I think stories like that would work better when in a show that's not structured like Discovery, where there's only
you're talking
10
about either
episodes
like
a season and it's one
more
continuous
episodes in a
story and
season,
it's building
or
up to that.
having it be like a one-off episode. Kind of like a reverse of the Chase from TNG, which we'll save the majority of that conversation for season 5 of Discovery, but it's like it was a one-off reveal in one episode, but it would have worked way better for like a whole season arc. Because again, we'll tackle that specific reveal when we talk about season 5 of Discovery, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the way Discovery is structured, that kind of thing doesn't work so well. Because like the entire season is building up to that, and there's a lot of stalling and nothing happening. That's a big problem with Discovery that I haven't mentioned because I've been glossing over so much, but not a lot happens. Half the episodes are just stalling and doing nothing.
I think that's a problem with New Trek
waiting for like the last 2 episodes where everything gets crammed
in general, where like they that was a
they
big just treat it like it's all one episode,
probably even more so than Discovery.
Like they treat this like every episode in a season as if the whole season itself is just one continuous episode. It was more what would be better done is like if it's like each episode of a season of Discovery is its own self-contained thing, but the end of each episode has implications for the following episode that cannot be ignored.
Yeah.
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 And
it would have worked
like
so much better as a
like,
miniseries.
An hour and a half episode, like maybe 3 or 4 episodes a season. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of fat to be trimmed from New Trek serialized so storytelling. Subscribe to our podcast, Kurtzman.
Again, Kurtzman, check the email. Yeah. And again, season 4 is where
I just want to remind people, with the exception of some episodes in season 4,
and we have to figure
this is kind of where my knowledge of what happens in Discovery overall just sort of like drops significant levels, because I've literally only seen the first 3 seasons all the way through. So at this point, it's mainly just Josh's thoughts, because he knows more than I do.
Okay, well, these are a little fresher in my mind, so I should be able to give more detail. Yeah, season 4, planets and stuff in space are mysteriously exploding, and the mystery of this season is what is causing this and how do we stop it. So turns out there is this highly advanced race of H.P. Lovecraft tentacle monsters who it's like their power source it farms like random points in the galaxy for stuff, whatever powers it. And they're tracking these things down, and they have to figure out how to communicate with them to say, "Hey, stop it! You're killing, a bunch of sentient life and stuff." And this season was probably the most Star Trek season because, like, you could. I can totally see that as something like TNG would do. Like, how do we figure out how to communicate with this species that is so alien to us? And I appreciate that. That was cool. That was a step in the right direction. Season 3 is definitely better, or season 4 is definitely better than the first 3.
See, that's where the fat trimming comes in, where it's like
kind of boring.
Season 4 would have made a perfect miniseries of hour-and-a-half episodes, maybe 3 or 4 episodes in the season. Like, I would have made a perfect miniseries. For one thing, it's such... Even if...
I don't think it even needed to be that long.
Yeah.
I think this could have been a 2-part episode of TNG.
There's so much that needed to be like just taken out of season 4 to make the story more interesting.
Yeah. And there was this scientist guy they brought in who was from Ryza, actually.
I know nothing about him. I did not get that far.
They use his like research and stuff to track them down. Okay, well, it turns out I don't think he's from the mirror universe. I think he's just from like another alternate dimension. And he wants to use... Oh god, I'm dying. Discovery is killing me. He wants to use their power source to power his thing so he can go back to his dimension. But if he does that, it'll like blow it up. It'll destroy it and it'll kill them. Some of the Federation members, Earth was one of them. I don't remember the others. They don't want to take the chance and wait for Discovery to try to figure out how to talk to these people, and they just want to kill them. So they're kind of backing this guy who... Yeah. He doesn't necessarily want to kill them, but he doesn't care that that's a side effect of what he's doing. So they're kind of with him. And there's this little coup where the Earth representative pulls some shady shit to try to help him. And even Booker sides with him because one of the casualties of their weird farming thing is his home planet. So he's like, fuck them, we'll kill them, whatever, I don't care. But I forget exactly what they do, but they pull something, they pull some kind of shenanigans, and that's what gets Booker in trouble and gets him sent to jail, and why he's like, out on work release in season 5. But they eventually figure out how to talk to these things, and they say, hey, stop killing us, and the things say, oh yeah, okay, sorry, we didn't mean to. And that's basically how it ends. Which again is probably is like the most Star Trek it's been, because that's kind of the message that Star Trek sends. Communication, talk to these people, you can solve your problems, and they do, which is why I like this season. But my biggest complaint about this season, and that it's just kind of boring. This is the one that probably stretched the most. Like, again, this could have been a 2-part episode of TNG, but they stretched it into 10 episodes. That's why it feels so boring. And it feels like nothing happens. But it's the most Star Trek, so
we even skipped over
I like that.
We even skipped over with season 3 the fact that the pilot Detmer was actually kind of focused on this season, which kind of proves because Detmer in season 3 was very clearly.
It
was good to
PTSD,
see more focused on her, like more focused on any of the characters other than Burnham, Tilly, and Saru, and whatever captain happened to be captain, and Stamets and Kolber. But it was very clear it was used as sort of like a plot point, which I don't disagree with the use of Detmer, but at the same time, it's like, give us more. Give us more of these characters. Give us more of who they are as people, outside of just using them as plot devices. And it's weird how we got more development for storylines for characters like Adira and Gray, who have only been in the show for like less than 2 seasons at this point. But we don't get that kind of development other than furthering the overall plot line forward. We don't get that kind of development for characters who have literally been in the show since episode 1. Detmer was literally in episode 1. Detmer is also from the Shenzhou. And the fact that she's and the fact
and
the fact that you did forget kind of shows the fact
I totally
that,
forgot about her PTSD thing.
Discovery has a weird track record of uneven use of side characters.
Yeah.
That's true. Kolber freaking died.
I even forgot about Kolber fucking dying. Remember season 2? Yeah, he died and came back. I totally forgot about that because that like amounted to nothing. Because he was like, "Oh, okay, I'm back," and then like for an episode, he was like, "Oh man, I'm not doing too well because I was dead and now I'm back. What's going on?" And then everybody was like, "Oh, you're okay," and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm okay. I'm going back to sickbay." And
pretty
that was
interesting character, regardless. I like Kolber.
Yeah, I do too. I like all of the other characters would be great characters if they were allowed to be characters. If they were allowed to be more than set dressing and the occasional
deserved a lot more screen
filler
time.
scene.
Get away from the fact that he is actually like central to the Spore Drive, which is like a central part of Discovery at all.
Yeah, he's probably the only other character.
He also skipped over the fact
that got.
He also skipped over the fact that Saru was captain in Discovery season 3. I feel like you've skipped over a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right. Saru. He was. Yeah, he was captain for a while. And we totally. Yeah, I totally forgot about the thing where he went through the thing where he didn't have the fear tentacles, and they turned into like darts, and then like when the Kelpians stopped becoming prey, they became hunters.
Those two.
I totally forgot about that. I don't even remember what season that was from. Was that 1 or 2? 2, yeah. Yeah, because he went through the thing where like they think they're dying, but they don't die. They just get really sick for a while, and then they're fine.
Kelpian puberty,
and they become like apex predators. Yeah, I forgot about that too. Because Yeah.
I was wondering if you were going to mention
Oh,
that.
and they ate them in the mirror universe. I forgot about that too. Yeah. Yeah, they did. I totally forgot about that too.
Yeah.
But, it shows how much the show cares about this shit.
Yeah. This is a little bit
If the show
of a
cared more,
tangent
I
because
would
I'm sure
remember
not
more.
even like TNG fans are gonna remember these aliens, but the Bahul or whatever they are, the aliens that are hunting the Kelpians on their home planet. It should have been the Sheliak, man. You remember the Sheliak?
Yeah.
They should have been the Sheliak. That would have been a great way of updating the Sheliak look.
Yeah, I do. They look similar.
I'm not necessarily against the Klingon War from season 1, but at the same time, I do agree with people that seeing the war with the Sheliak would have been a much more interesting way of opening Discovery as a show. Because for one thing, yes, the Sheliak have been on screen before in Star Trek, but they're such an esoteric race that newer viewers could pick up on and think, oh, this is like a brand new kind of story. There's no added baggage of how the Klingons are supposed to look or anything, or the mirror universe. So having the war be with the Sheliak would have been much more interesting because at that point you can kind of theoretically almost decide which side you're on. It's do I go with the Sheliak? Do I go with the Federation? It's that would have been a much more interesting war than the war with the Klingons. Again, I'm not against the war with the Klingons. I'm just saying doing the Sheliak instead would have been much more interesting.
And you could have done pretty much anything you wanted with the Sheliak, because all we really established about them in TNG is that they really like paperwork. Yeah, and we saw one of them on the view screen for a total of 5 minutes.
All we know about the Sheliak
So yeah,
is that they love paperwork.
You could have done whatever you wanted with them, and
utter
it would have been fine.
racists. But hey.
Yeah, and they are not humanoid. That's it.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
That should be the title of this episode.
Kurtzman, the email is in the description.
Are you listening, Alex Kurtzman?
Hey Kurtzman, the email is in the description.
Are you there, Kurtzman?
Bro,
it's
are
us,
you listening?
Josh and Wesley.
Bro, I gotta tell
hey
you,
there,
bro.
Jesus. Are you there, Jesus? It's me. Whatever. All right.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yes, Josh's favorite season.
Okay, and now we
overall, there is nothing about the season that Josh dislikes. He thinks it's perfect. No issues with it whatsoever, right, Josh?
Season 5, where we revisit the progenitors from TNG. Apparently, during the Dominion War, a couple of scientists found the technology that the progenitors used to seed the galaxy with life. And they hid it somewhere, and they hid a bunch of clues for somebody to find it, because the galaxy wasn't ready for it in the late 2370s, in the 2380s, but they had hoped 900 years time a perfect being named Michael Burnham would emerge and be ready to use the technology of God as she saw fit, which she doesn't do, but so So Discovery is given this mission by Dr. Kovich, who hasn't mentioned again. He's this weird guy. He's this weird guy who works for
He's gotta be
Starfleet
weird.
in some unnamed capacity,
He's played by
but
David
he's like a really
Cronenberg.
important guy. And he gives Discovery this mission. What? Yeah. David Cronenberg tells Michael Burnham to track down the technology to create life. So they follow these clues, and it turns out these two people have stolen. Did they steal the first clue or the second? I don't remember. I don't remember where they find the first clue. Anyway, this is very similar to the TNG episode The Chase, where they're tracking down the clues and stuff. They meet these two, like,
fugitives?
What do you want to call them? They're not exactly mercenaries. They're like, they're Han Solo types. Scoundrels, we'll say. They're Han Solo types. They found one of the clues, and they have to get it from them. So, the whole season turns into this chase. They're following these two people, Maul and Locke, because they're both trying to find all the clues and trying to get the thing. Maul is a human. It turns out she is the daughter of Cleveland's mentor. Cleveland Booker's mentor.
Booker is the name of her father, and I'm pretty sure Book is just Book.
Yeah. Well, he's Cleveland Booker the fourth.
Oh, okay.
The mentor was Cleveland Booker the third because they passed the name on. Okay. And she's the daughter of Cleveland Booker the third.
Get ready for it.
And Locke is from an unnamed species that we never learn anything about. No. The Discovery writers, in their infinite hubris, decided that they would use the brain for 20... I looked this up. The brain were introduced in... what was it, 1991? I think it's been almost 30 years that the brain has been used sporadically. Not one of these people, not one writer, not one director, not one producer, not one person in all of Star Trek thought that they could deliver a satisfying answer to the question, what does a brain look like under their helmet? But the Discovery writers, the people who created Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven Way 2.0, the fan fiction writers, the people who shit on everything that you love and would come to your house and kick your fucking dog if they knew your address. They decided, we know what the brain look like. They look like Piccolo from Dragon Ball Evolution. I don't know if our
listeners have noticed yet, but
that's it. It's just
Josh
a fucking
is not
green
too
guy.
fond of the writers of Discovery. Which is a cardinal sin.
Yeah, they're making me acknowledge Dragon Ball Evolution's existence. Yeah. Everything else about the brain was pretty cool. I like the updated uniforms. I like the updated technology. But it's just a green guy. Okay, he can turn clear when he wants to. Ooh, okay, whatever.
is beyond
why
you.
they thought they could get away with that.
Yeah.
And these people, remember the writers' strike last year? Or the year before, when these people wanted more money. You think these people deserve more money? They should be paying us.
Yeah.
They should be paying me for what they put me through for 5 seasons of this shit. I'm gonna get one of those fucking.
Do you disagree with
ambulance
the
chasing
writing
lawyers,
decisions
and I'm
of
gonna
Star
sue
Trek
them for emotional
shows?
damage.
You may be entitled to financial compensation.
You may be entitled to financial compensation. Yeah, I'm gonna sue them. But anyway, so it turns out that Locke is actually
Primarch, not the Emperor.
the
I remember that part.
nephew of the Breen
The actual
Emperor.
Emperor. The actual Emperor died, and there are a bunch of Primarchs that are. Oh wait, am I misremembering something?
No,
Oh,
he's the nephew of the
okay.
Emperor, but he was adopted by the Primarch. Yeah. Yeah, he's like the heir to the throne because he's the closest living relative of the Emperor.
Okay.
And the guy that raised him, the Primarch, wanted to use him to take over. Yeah, which again, we're back to our horrible writing bullshit because this guy is essentially a prince, and he abandons his royalty and lavish lifestyle to be with this chick, to be with this scrappy commoner chick, and it's like, what the fuck? I can't with this bullshit. Which, if you had taken that part away, and Locke was just another guy, it would have been fine. I would have bought it, but like, I don't know. He didn't even. I don't know. I was so turned off by the whole Breen thing that I just hate everything about this season. So they follow the clues. What Maul and Locke want the shit for is because they want to try to give it to the Breen to make up for Locke leaving, so they'll leave him alone so they can be together and I don't know, do whatever the fuck they're gonna do. The Breen find out about this shit and they want it because it's a powerful weapon and they're the Breen. One thing I didn't like about the Breen is that they made them actually speak English instead of just the garbled Breen noises. But I guess once you've shown their faces and they're just some fucking green guy, I guess it doesn't matter anymore. But so they follow all these clues. They have to collect pieces of this little puzzle box. And that puzzle box is like the key to open a big thing that somebody hid in like the gravity well between two black holes. And they find that they go to a bunch of planets and shit. The Trill come back because one of the clues is with a Trill who was there at the time, and we see Gray one last time, and Adira and Gray break up. And this is when Adira's
so Gray was
actual
holding
character
her
development
back.
starts,
Gray
and
was
they become
holding
a
them
better
back.
character, and I start to like them a lot more. So I guess Grace. Yeah, I guess Gray served a purpose in the end. And Culber actually gets to do something, because they do the ritual thing that Jadzia did, where every other host personality gets put into a body, because they take the host that was one of the scientists, and he gets put into Culber, and they lead him to one of the clues, and then after that, Culber has this weird, like, I don't know, he's going through this, like, weird spiritual awakening thing, which is cool. It gave Culber something to do. I'm all for that. There was another there was another fun thing with Culber, as he's like trying to figure out all this stuff that he's feeling. He's running this program that is basically like a holographic recreation of like his grandmother. And he's talking to her. It's this new program that he's working on with these other doctors, because he's talking to them. He's sending a message to one of them, and it's supposed to be a program to help deal with grief when you lose a loved one. And it's like the way they describe it, it scans your brain, and it takes your memories of that loved one and recreates them, so you can like talk to them and shit.
Why?
And I feel like that's a bad idea. Because that's
really
well, that's kind of how Battlestar Galactica started.
Oh yeah, I have not.
Did you ever see Caprica?
I've not watched Caprica, but I did see a video. Yeah, I saw a video on it. Yeah.
Because that's yeah. Oh, because that's like exactly. Yeah, that's exactly how the Cylons were created, because there was a scientist and his daughter died in a terrorist attack, and he recreated her in virtual reality, and her mind, her virtual reality recreation was the template that the Cylons were created with, because he was also working on like these military robots, and he was trying to do AI for them, and he just like took a shortcut and used the recreation of his daughter that he made and put it in the Cylons. And because his daughter was a weird religious fanatic who believed in like the one true God instead of the Greek pantheon that everybody in Battlestar Galactica believed in, that's how the Cylons you know, got their monotheistic shit. And yeah, so that's basically how Battlestar Galactica started.
I've been
so I
working my
don't
way
think it's a
through
good idea.
Star Galactica, like the first show. I'm only like 4 episodes into it, but still,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll try
Oh
when I look
shit!
through this. I'll
Spoiler
edit
warning for
that in
Battlestar
there.
Galactica and Caprica.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So that's what Culber's doing this whole season. They visit the Trill. They visit this other planet where there's a clue hidden in this thing. The planet is like desert and barren, but a Denobulan scientist built like a couple of in habitats where people could live, and he hid one of the clues in one of these shielded in habitats. And to get to the clue, they have to do like this ritual marathon that they have to run. and Burnham and Tilly run the marathon. And I think they put Tilly in a marathon just to combat all of the fat Tilly memes on the internet. Which, you know, good for them. That's fun. Which, yeah, good for them. I don't I don't make fun of Tilly for being fat. I know everybody hated me because I wouldn't stop other people from doing it. But no, good for them. That was funny. I liked that. That was a good little touch there. But they get the clue there. There was the Trill one, there was the Denobulan one. They go to the ISS Enterprise. The Mirror Universe strikes again. Because it turns out one of the scientists
that's an interesting
is
but
actually
also
from the Mirror Universe.
Unnecessary addition.
Yeah, because after Kirk convinced Mirror Spock to not be such a dick and to try to, you know, make things better in the Empire, and that backfired horribly. Apparently, like, some refugees from the Mirror Universe took the Mirror Enterprise and came to our universe. And, so this scientist hid her clue on the Enterprise, and they left it in, like, some nebula where like, sensors and stuff don't work, because sensors never work in nebulas. So they hid it there, and they find it there. There was that one. And then they go to the archive that is hidden in the Badlands from Deep Space Nine and Voyager. This was a cool concept. I like the concept of this archive that's, like, open to anyone who can find it. They don't take sides. They don't align themselves with any one power. They'll let anybody in who, you know, follows the rules and shit. But when the Breen find it, they don't follow the rules, and they start to attack the place, and this is where other things happen that annoy me. Back on the Enterprise, back on the Mirror Universe Enterprise, Locke and Burnham get into a fight, and Burnham accidentally stabs Locke. And he's not doing too well. Like, he's gonna die. And, he gets medical treatment and shit. But he's in Discovery's sickbay, and he comes up with this plan to let them escape. He overdoses on his pain meds to create a distraction so Maul can escape. And he overdoses too well, and he kills himself. So he's fucking dead. The Breen want his body back, and they want Maul, and there's this debate, and they eventually decide, yeah, we're gonna give her back. So they give her back, and then she pulls this thing where she reveals to the Breen that her and Locke are married, and that makes her the the heir to the throne or whatever the fuck, and the Primarch can use her for his bid for power, and she's gonna help them get the progenitor stuff because she thinks she can use it to bring Locke back to life. So yeah, okay, so then they go to the library, and there's a clue in the library. The Breen are attacking the library, and this is a stupid scene, and it doesn't make any fucking sense. they're sending troops into the library because they've bored through its shields, and they're beaming people in. And Maul is trying to convince the Primarch that like this isn't how to go about it. You know, don't attack the place. You can get the clue another way, and like people are gonna die. And the Primarch's like, I don't care how many people it takes. I don't care how many people die. And then Maul is like, you see, everybody, die, right? He doesn't care about you. Remember? Yeah, yeah. One, they get like 10 people in there at max, and we see like 2 of them get taken out. Because like Book punches one out, and I think Raynor takes one down. Oh, I forgot to talk about Raynor. I'll get to him. But do you remember when the Breen joined the war on the side of the Dominion? Do you remember the first thing that they did?
Yes.
They launched a suicide attack on Earth. It didn't have to be a suicide.
Yeah.
It didn't have to be a suicide attack. They could have escaped. But they didn't. Which means
that's a good point, yeah.
Breen don't give a fuck how many of them die. So why is anybody gonna care that this guy's throwing a few extra troops at a fucking library? Why is anybody gonna give a fuck? But that causes the dissension that's needed, and Maul kills the Breen Primarch, and she takes over, and she's the leader of the Breen now.
Weird. It's stupid because it's also a weird like plot convenience, or it's like, because apparently I married Locke, I'm now in charge of your entire species, or at least the armies of this Primarch. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Rewind a little bit. We're introduced to Captain Raynor, who is another Battlestar Galactica reference because he's played by he's played by what's his name? The Cylon. He's played by the Cylon that
okay. All right.
Kidnaps
this is actually
on
spoilers for me too, because I haven't gotten that far at all. I've only 4 episodes into
spoilers.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh. Okay, back up. Okay. Do you remember the Cylon like that do you remember the Cylon that they met on Ragnarok Station when they were looking for weapons?
Oh, so that's Cylon. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that guy. He plays Captain Raynor. And he's really cool. He's the captain of another ship that is sent to help Discovery. They help on the first clue they find. The first clue was on this desert planet that they find. What happened? Shit, I don't remember why, but he loses command of his ship because he did something. He's a shoot first and ask questions later, ass kicking kind of captain. And he loses command of his ship, but Burnham picks him to be her first officer. So that's why he's along for all of this. And it turns out, and he is what's the name of the species? They're from Deep Space Nine. They're the people with the pointy ears and the Dr. Seuss hair, who were in that episode of Deep Space Nine where their people had developed that biological weapon and they were destroying it. And after they destroyed the biological weapon, they were going to kill everybody who knew about it. And Julian and O'Brien are like on the run because they helped destroy the last of the thing. Kelleran's, yes, that's it. Yeah, he's a Kelleran. He doesn't have the Dr. Seuss hair, though. They gave him a normal haircut. So I guess in 1,000 years, his planet got a barber. And it turns out that the Kelleran were like the Breen took over their planet at some point in the not too distant past, because like he experienced this firsthand, so it could have been that long ago. So he doesn't like the Breen, so he's very aggressive about this. And they almost make him the Captain Jellicoe type, because like he thinks that negotiation with the Breen is pointless and we should just like attack them, because there's points where they're like getting into fights and he doesn't want to negotiate. And he's almost the Jellicoe type, because like the writers want him to be wrong, but he's not. Like in order for Burnham to be right, Rayner has to be wrong.
I think that's a problem.
Rayner is not wrong about anything
specifically
he has said.
Burnham in Discovery. It's like, they always try to make sure that she is the right decision in a debate, and it kind of glosses over the fact that the opponent in the debate is like, they actually have good points. I noticed that with Vance too. You skipped over Admiral Vance. We skipped over Admiral Vance.
Yeah, but yeah, it's kind. Oh, we skipped over so much because none of it matters. Yeah, Admiral Vance is a cool guy. But yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of like the Jellicoe situation, where like they want us to sympathize with Riker, but Riker's being
an asshole because
he
Riker's being an asshole because
just do what the fuck
he's told. Because
and
his step captain isn't as cool as his actual captain.
Yeah. Yeah. Side tangent, Jellicoe was right about everything. Jellicoe did not come there to make friends and be everyone's permanent captain. He had a specific job to do and he was going to leave after that. So he didn't care how the rest of the crew felt about him. He just needed his orders followed until the mission was done, and then he was going to go, because, if it turned out the right way, Picard would have been back and everything would have been fine. If Picard had died, they would have gotten a new captain anyway. They probably would have made Riker the captain.
Jellicoe.
Side note, Jellicoe was right about everything. But yeah, Rayner becomes Rayner becomes first officer. Back to the library. Yeah, they attack the library. The Breens suddenly care that they die, and they kill the Primarch. Maul takes over. She's giving the orders. They get the last clue. Discovery pulls a fake out thing. Discovery gets the last clue. They use it to complete the puzzle, and the puzzle is a map to where the progenitor's technology is hidden. So they get that information, and then they give it to the Breen, because the Breen are like, give it to us or we'll destroy you. So they give it to them. And then the Breen try to destroy Discovery anyway, and they pull a fake out where they use the spore drive to jump like a second before they're getting hit by a torpedo, so it looks like they get destroyed. So the Breen think that Discovery is destroyed. They think that they have the they think that they got all the answers, so it's a race to get to the progenitor's technology. No, the last clue wasn't in the black hole. Did I say the last clue was in the last clue was in the library? The progenitor's technology itself is hidden in like a gravity well between two black holes. And it's a race to get there. Everybody gets there. The Breen get the thing first, and it's like this giant cylinder thing, and they open it, and there's it's like a portal inside. It takes you to somewhere else, and Maul goes inside. The Breen send like a couple scientists in, and they never come back. And then Maul gets impatient, and she goes inside. And then Discovery attacks the Breen, and there's this big space fight, and the thing gets sucked out. The Breen lose possession of the thing, and it gets shot out into space. And Burnham goes inside the thing. Oh yeah, I forgot. That's a kind of cool little thing where everybody they infiltrate the Breen ship. They disguise themselves as Breen, and they infiltrate the ship because they want to beam the thing off. They want to beam it to Discovery and then get the fuck out of there. And Adira goes on the mission, and this is their character development at this is like the pinnacle of their character development, because they get stationed on the bridge and they're going through things where like they're not themselves, and Raynor is the one that's like gives them the pep talk, like, you wouldn't be here if I didn't think you could do it. Now just shut up and do it. And yeah, that's basically what he says. And then they're like, oh, okay, cool. And so Burnham, Book,
Reese,
Adira, and one guy, Reese, the bridge crew. It took 5 seasons, but I actually know his name now. Yeah, they beam on the ship, and they're trying to get they want to disable the shields and put a transporter enhancer on the thing so they can beam it out. And of course they get found out, and before the space battle ensues, Burnham jumps in the portal too. And then there's this big space battle, and they come up with this plan where they Discovery flies inside the Breen ship, because the Breen ships are huge and Discovery actually fits inside it. They fly inside the cargo bay, and they grab the thing with the tractor beam and pull it out. And in the big space battle, it gets lost, and it gets opened up in between the black holes, and it starts pulling power from the black holes, and it's fucking up gravity in the area. And inside the thing, it reminded me a lot of the Iconian gateways. because there's like these different portals to all these different planets that like the progenitors you know, did their stuff on, like made life on. And Maul and Burnham meet and they fight there and they go through a couple of portals and fight on a couple of planets, and there's this one planet that looks like the planet that Geordi and that Romulan got stuck on in that one episode. There's another planet that looks like it's covered in cherry blossoms. That was pretty cool. I was thinking, fuck it, just stay there. That place looks cool. And then Burnham figures out that there are secret portals hidden inside of force fields and shit. I don't know. They explained it. It makes sense the way they explained it. But she finds like the secret portal, and it takes them to where they need to go, to the actual progenitor's technology. And the final puzzle. During one of the puzzles, apparently somebody told Burnham, like, she thought it was the passphrase. What was the actual phrase? It was something like out of the one made out of the many or something. But anyway, the last part, they've gone through all this shit. They've traversed planets. They've done all this shit. The final puzzle is what amount. What? I don't care. The final puzzle is basically one of those little puzzles they put on the table at Cracker Barrel to entertain children. Like she has to make a triangle out of a bunch of little plastic triangles on a table, and there's like one triangle missing, and you have to figure out that you have to make a triangle with the empty space from all the other triangles. It's stupid, but whatever. And then she meets and there's an actual progenitor there, and she meets the progenitor, and the progenitor's like, hey, we've been waiting forever for somebody to come here and find this place just like we found it. Because apparently it turns out the progenitors didn't build this. They found it too. Someone else built it. And yeah, which is cool, I guess, but this is another thing that's kind of like ignored immediately after it's said, because it doesn't come up again. And like, I mean, it kind of does, but I don't know. It's kind of a pointless reveal, kind of just thrown in just to do it. But yeah, the progenitor's like, you're finally here. That means you figured all the stuff out, and you must be the one that's worthy to you're the one that's worthy to use this technology. I'll teach you how to use it. And Burnham's like, no, we got to turn this thing off because it's destroying gravity and it's gonna like destroy everything. And then the progenitor's like, oh, okay, just undo the triangles and everything will be fine. And Burnham undoes the triangles, and then everything's fine. And that's kind of it. And then Burnham decides, we're gonna throw this thing into the black hole instead of taking it, because like nobody should have this power. And, okay, that's fine. Stamets is kind of upset about that because he's like, "You stupid bitch, we spent all this time doing this. I want to fucking study it." And Burnham says no. And then Stamets is like, okay. And yeah, that's basically that's how it ends. But then we still have 20 minutes of tacked on reshoots that they did when they found out they were canceled. So after this, Burnham has one last meeting with Dr. Kovich, and she's like, "Sorry, I didn't bring the technology, but nobody should have it." And Kovich is like, "Yeah, that's cool, whatever. Um, you are the most frustrating person I have ever met, but you get the job done, and I respect you because you're the main character and everyone has to love you." And it is revealed that Dr. Kovich
dun,
is
dun,
actually
dun.
Crewman Daniels from Enterprise. Which
I'm
I
sure.
don't think that was the original plan. I think they just threw that in there.
I'm sure Kovich
when they
wasn't
found
really
out they
supposed
were
to be
canceled
anybody.
Because it doesn't
I think
really
he was
make
just supposed
sense.
to.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think there was some kind of plan for him, but I don't think that was it. Because Kovich is a guy that wears a our time modern clothes and glasses, and he's even writing on regular paper and shit. This is a guy that was obsessed with our time or came from our time. I thought that was gonna be the reveal. And it doesn't make sense that Crewman Daniels would be attached to the early 21st century, because he's from the 26th century, went back to the 22nd century to help Archer and do all this shit. He has no connection to our time. Why does he care about this stuff? But whatever. Dr. Kovich is Crewman Daniels. And then we go to Saru's wedding, which I totally forgot to mention that Saru and the and the ambassador of Vulcan are getting married. They had a thing. They started flirting in the beginning of season. They flirted a little bit in season 4, and at the beginning of season 5, they're like, "Oh, we're getting married." And that was another thing that pissed me off about the fucking Vulcans, because when they announced their wedding, or they're gonna announce their wedding, and one of her aides tells her, "Maybe you shouldn't announce it just yet because you're going to upset the logic extremists." And it's like, it's been 900. Yeah, it's been 900 fucking years, and you still have Vulcan racists? Come on. You didn't do anything about that? You let the Romulans come back, you reunited your people, but there's still these stupid fucking logic people running around. But anyway, Saru and what's her face, they get married. And then we fast forward a little bit into the future. Burnham and Book are old and gray, and they're living on some place, and Burnham is going on, she's an admiral now, and she's going on one final mission on Discovery, and her son, who is a captain in Starfleet, takes her to the Discovery, and apparently, I don't know why, but they've downgraded Discovery. They took out all the 32nd century technology, and it's back to how it was before it jumped in time. And its last mission is to go out somewhere in space and sit there so the short trek Calypso can happen.
That's how Discovery ends.
And that's how and that's how that's where the entire show ends. There's this little montage of all the crew, laughing and talking together, and we finally get to see
vanished
Detmer
from
and
season
Alusha
5
again. Oh, which I forgot to mention. They kind of I forgot to mention. They fuck off halfway through the season. They say that Detmer and Alusha are taking the ISS Enterprise back to Federation headquarters. And they just they're never seen again until the last 5 minutes of the last episode, because they're seen happy and laughing and talking with everybody in that final montage. That's it.
That's the nightmare over.
Yeah, that's how it ends.
I feel like the Calypso stuff probably would have been the foundation for season 6 if they had gotten to season 6. What could have been interesting though is
Probably,
if Kovich,
probably.
Kovich was revealed to be the villain of season 6. I feel like that would have been a good payoff too. Then again, season 6 is not happening.
That would be interesting. Yeah, I wonder if Kovich.
That would be.
I wonder if
interesting.
Kovich was supposed to be Future Guy from Enterprise.
Yeah,
I don't know, but yeah, that was the end of Discovery.
Hey Josh,
it ended with
I know Discovery's over, and you think the nightmare's over, and you're not gonna be annoyed by it again, but I have one last little thing that might piss you off a little bit more about Discovery. So I'm gonna describe details, vague details about a Star Trek show, and I want you to tell me whether or not I'm describing Discovery or Deep Space Nine, okay? All right, so
oh no.
The first season of the show opens with a character who is the main character of the show, but not the central. Well, the main character of the show, but not at the rank of captain yet. And this character is admittedly African American. This character, in the very first episode, or I guess you could say story of the entire show, is fighting in a battle on the side of the Federation against a very powerful enemy. And in that battle, they lose someone the main character lose someone who's very important to them. Then they are assigned to a post that is not what they wanted, but they just got to do what they got to do to survive. And that ends up being the main setting of the show. And they sort of just. The first 2 seasons of the show is its own thing, and then by season 3, there's starting a overarching plot line that goes from that season until the very end of the show. And in season 3, the main character is promoted to captain. And in the last season of the show, the Breen are a major power that the main characters, the cast, have to fight against. Which show am I talking about, Josh?
Oh God. Oh my God. I did notice that there was one parallel that I did notice, that for some reason in Star
I
Trek,
legitimately
black people are
think
not allowed to
they
start
just
out as
pulled
captains.
a bunch of plot points from Deep Space Nine and just
I
built the plot of Discovery, at least Discovery season 3 onward, around those plot points.
Yeah, there are similarities there. Discovery pulled a bunch of shit from everything. Discovery, I think it initially started, it was like banking on nostalgia. It's like, remember this, remember the Klingons, remember Spock, remember Pike, remember all this shit. And then I think they decided to shift the nostalgia to Strange New Worlds. And so they pushed Discovery into the future.
But the reason it works is that it has a serialized storyline, but it doesn't focus on that storyline as everything for all the episodes. It has episodic stories. And I think that's initially how Star Trek should do episodic or do serialized storytelling, where it's essentially running in the background of a season until the very end. If anything, Strange New Worlds
did
proves that there's
Discovery
there are lessons to take from how to write Discovery, and that you can write it better. You can learn from Discovery's mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. Discovery is that friend you have that your parents tell you if you don't shape up, you're going to turn out like them. That was Star Trek Discovery. Much like the corona pandemic,
Discovery was a learning experience.
We all had to deal with it, and now that it's over, we just want to forget that it happened. Yeah. Hopefully, there's supposedly this Starfleet Academy show that's going to also take place in that time frame.
Yeah.
32nd century, and I'm guessing there's going to be like crossovers of characters and shit, because like I guess Tilly is supposed to be like one of the main characters. I'm assuming there's going to be other Discovery characters popping up. Hopefully they will learn from the mistakes they made with Discovery. Because, like, the 32nd century is a cool thing to explore. I just hope we can actually explore it, you know.
Hey, never say never. Star Trek Legacy might be on the horizon sooner than we realize.
I mean, well, maybe. Or they're just going to keep talking about it like that Section 31
I'm not looking forward to that, even if it does exist.
100 years now. And,
I will
say this, though, it's coming.
We may not get Legacy, like we may not get Star Trek Legacy itself, but we might get things that, like in other shows, that could have potentially been in Legacy, you know? Like, I don't think Star Trek as a franchise right now is done with like this Picard era, like post TNG setting, like the start of the 25th century. I think there's a lot more, not only that could be done in the early 25th century, but like that Star Trek's going to do for the early 25th century.
Hopefully, it's a good time to explore because you still have pretty much all of the older characters from the TNG era shows. They're still around. You can make new characters.
Yeah.
You have a lot to explore because the Dominion War changed a lot. You know, I mean,
sort of.
Lower
Decks is sooner.
Lower Decks kind of does that a little
in the timeline than the Picard era. Lower Decks is sort of like
and Picard. Yeah.
Lower Decks is sort of like a continuation of the immediate post Dominion War era of TNG shows. Yes.
Yeah, Lower Decks is very like post Star Trek Nemesis.
I guess 5 is the new 7.
Canceled too. That's the one we wanted to continue, damn it.
All ended at 7 seasons.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that was
what
Star
an
Trek
experience.
Discovery.
Too many elements that could have worked, but
and
just
it didn't suck,
didn't come together.
Then it sucked again. Yeah. If it had not just been focused solely on one character, it would have been so much better. And I've seen people, I've seen a lot of people say, when people complain that it's the Michael Burnham show, I've seen a lot of people say, well, that's what they said from the very beginning that it was going to be.
From the very beginning, they said it would be a anthology show.
Mistake. If I tell you, hey, I'm going to shit in your sandwich, and then I shit in your sandwich. Okay, I told you I was going to do it, but guess what? You're still eating shit. It doesn't make it better. Well, I think that's all I have to say about Discovery. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, Frank.
All 3 of you who are going to listen to this. For listening to us talk. Yeah. Hi, Bill. We're getting back to work, don't worry. Yeah, thanks for listening to us bitch about Star Trek Discovery. Next time, I don't know, we'll bitch about something else.
That's going to take me 5 hours just to get through season 1.
While I don't hate Picard, I do.
Ugh. Yeah.
I don't hate it, but I have a lot to say about it.
There's so much potential in this podcast. We might even do therapy at one point.
Yes, thank you for listening.
We should even do like an episode of like we answer your questions. Like the number 1 question we'll get in a Q&A will be, sure is a hot one today, huh?
Yeah. Is it a hot one? Yes. Next question. But yeah, thank you for listening, everyone. And next time, we'll bitch about something else. Oh, hi, Marcy. Do you want to say? Do you want to do the? Do you want to do the closing, Marcy?
Bye, Marcy.
No, you're not going to talk. Okay. Well, Marcy says goodbye too. Okay, that should do it.